right, and we are rolling.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Kimball, founder of Wolfguard IT. Welcome to our webinar. There's a lot of cool and useful items we're going to cover. I'm excited for all of you to join us. I just wanted to give a quick introduction. We are Wolfguard IT, and we are in Bozeman, Montana, but we have clients spread all over the US, even some offices in Ireland and China. We are an IT support company who works with small to medium-sized organizations who have 3 to 200 staff. Basically, if you had your very own internal IT department of 30 people, we do everything they would do minus the payroll expense. This includes IT support, cybersecurity, phone systems, cloud services, and some application development. In this webinar today, we want to share with you some of what Microsoft 365, your modern workplace, can do for you. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to type them out in the chat, and Rafe, our moderator, will be reading them. I would like to now introduce you to our presenter and Microsoft 365 expert, David Swinson.
Hey, everybody, thanks so much. And thanks, Chris. And of course, thank you, Rafe, for manning the Q&A for us. Really excited to get started here with you guys and show you a lot of what Microsoft 365 has to offer the small to medium-sized business community. Now, if you're in a larger organization too, don't get us wrong, this stuff works great for you as well. And we can stretch all of these products to suit the needs of your organization, from organizations that start at 1 user all the way up to 500,000 users. So really, anywhere in between, we can cover that gamut here. And I'm going to actually show you today on this live demo what it's like working inside of a Microsoft 365 environment that's managed by your IT provider like Wolfguard IT. So what you're looking at right now is an actual Windows 10 desktop. This is all set up with what's called Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So what's the difference with Azure Active Directory and local Active Directory, like many of us are accustomed to? Well, the benefit, and I'm putting on my IT cap here for just a minute, the benefit of this is I get the same kind of granular policy, control, and compliance reporting as if I was still working in an on-premise office level environment. But now my users, my employees, my team members can be anywhere in the world on any device at any given time. So that means they can be working from Windows, they can be working from a Mac, they can be working from their iPhone or even their Android device, really anywhere. So what I'm going to show you today is how this experience looks and feels on a Windows desktop, because it's what most of us are familiar with. But just keep in mind, it all works the same across any device you choose to work from. All right. So what you're looking at right now is an actual Windows 10 desktop. This is just a demo desktop, all set up on Microsoft 365. And what I want to call attention to first is when I open up my Start, you'll notice it's the same Start menu that you're accustomed to using in Windows 10. Everything is pretty much exactly the same. So when I click on my settings here, the one thing that is different is when I go into my account settings and go to Access Worker School, you can see here that we're connected to Azure Active Directory, and that's what Azure AD means. Traditionally, in an IT environment, you would be connected to your local domain controller. That means that there's a server inside your organization somewhere that runs all of your users' identities and login information. But now, with Microsoft 365, we're able to take that functionality and expand it out for all of your remote workers and your office workers without the need for any type of VPN or complex network configurations. We know that those can cause some pain in an organization, so we really wanted to roll out a system that would help us get away from the traditional VPN and complex network setups. So how does this all work? Before we get into the demo, I just want to say that all of these services that we're going to show you today are included in your Microsoft 365 subscription. Now, the benefit of working with Wolfguard IT is that we are seasoned Microsoft 365 experts. A lot of us came from Microsoft, and we're able to set up and configure all of these things for you, whether you're just looking for a small office setup, whether you have a small business of 5 users or a much larger small to medium-sized business, upwards of 300 or even more than that users. We support HIPAA compliance, GDPR compliance, PCI compliance, ITAR compliance, NIST. You name it, we can cover it inside of Microsoft 365. So With that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo environment here. And first thing I'm going to do is open up my browser. When I launch my browser, this is using Microsoft Edge, the new Microsoft Edge that works and feels exactly like Google Chrome. So if you've ever used Google Chrome before, you already know how to use Microsoft Edge. The first thing you get presented with is your organization's homepage, okay? So this, of course, being a demo, it's going to show you some generic branding, nothing really fancy on here. When it comes to your organization, and if you decide to adopt this modern workplace solution, this page and all the actual branding inside the setup will be your tenant, your iconography, your company's branding, and anything else you want to throw in here. But putting on our remote worker caps for a moment, being able to simply open up your browser from any device and get presented with all the tools and resources you or your team would need to do their day-to-day work is extremely powerful. And also it's protected by your Microsoft authentication services. So it's all protected by multi-factor authentication, regulatory compliance, and anything else you'd need. Again, I'm not using a VPN to do any of this access. Right off the bat, you can see that all of your users get instant access to what we've dubbed their virtual office. Virtual office consists of 3 primary tools: email and calendar, of course, Teams, which we'll get into, and your task management, Microsoft To Do. So anytime you have flagged emails or planned tasks or anything you need to remind yourself about, you'll be able to find it right within the My Tasks option here. If you want to communicate and collaborate with other team members or maybe someone outside the organization, you can do that through traditional email, and you can also do it through Microsoft Teams and have a webinar very much like we're having now with anyone you choose. They do not have to be Microsoft customers or have any affiliation with Microsoft whatsoever. So you could bring in Google users, AOL users, Comcast users, whatever other services that you subscribe to, those can be brought in here. Moving down the page, one of the most popular areas is the My Work Apps section. So this is customized organization by organization that we work with. So from here, maybe you use QuickBooks to do your accounting. Maybe you use Adobe Creative Cloud to do some design and drafting work, or maybe you use Salesforce as your CRM. Whatever the app you use may be, we can integrate it directly into this landing page, all powered by a single sign-on. So what does that mean for you? That means that your users aren't going to need to remember their Salesforce password, their QuickBooks password, their Adobe password, and their Microsoft password. It means that it's one password to rule them all, and that's your Microsoft 365 username and password, or email and password. So tons of applications that can be integrated into here. Moving on down the page, we have your team calendar. One of the other big challenges, especially since we've all started working remotely really heavily, is maintaining a team calendar. How do I get access to my team's calendar? How do I see what's going on inside the organization? And how do I join those meetings effectively? And that's what this area solves right here. So this dynamically updates as meetings come and go. And I can see that I have a meeting coming up Monday, September 14th from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I can click on that meeting. And from right here on my home page, I can join the meeting, I can dial into the meeting, and I see all the description and details about the actual meeting and what I should expect for an agenda. If I want to add this to my own calendar too, I can actually from right here add the event to my own personal 365 calendar and then have that sync maybe to my Gmail calendar or my AOL calendar or any other calendar that I use. All of that is possible in here. Note that for IT admins or company administrators too, this add event to their calendar can actually be set with a policy. So it happens automatically for your users and they're not having to come to this page every single time to find those events. They can just open up their phone, view their calendar, and get all the information that they might need. Now our next section down here is extremely powerful, and this is called My Recent Documents. And the reason this is powerful is because it's going to tailor and tweak and dynamically update based on the user that's actually using this page at any given time. So I can see up in the top right-hand corner here that I'm signed in as my user, Shannon Silva. So it knows what documents Shannon has access across any of her devices. That means that on Shannon's iPhone, on her Android phone, on her Mac device, and on her PC, she can start working on something anywhere and then pick up right where she left off simply by opening the document and making edits directly within the browser. And if you use the desktop applications, if you have a subscription that supports that, or have Word, Excel, or PowerPoint installed, or want that installed, you can actually open it directly in the desktop app and pick up again right where you left off. So what is this doing for us? This is enabling us to work on any device, access content anywhere, anytime, and always be able to pull up documents no matter where they're saved or when they're saved. So really, really helpful stuff going on here. Let's go back to my browser because I want to show you some file sharing options here. So file sharing is a huge piece. And talking about file sharing and security and making data available to people no matter where they're going to be at is really important now. So over on the right-hand side, I have my team files option. And for any of you that have used network shares before, maybe your O drive, P drives, Q drives, or Dropboxes, or Google Drives, whatever they might have been, are all aggregated into this one cohesive experience now. So let's go ahead and open up our team files. And let's take a look at what it looks like. So right here, I'm presented with a document library, or what you would look at as a network shared drive, all hosted in SharePoint Online. Now, this makes it really, really powerful for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is I have this full web interface to work off of. So maybe if I'm not near my computer, my traditional work computer every single day, and maybe I'm using a friend's computer or pulling things up from my phone, all of my stuff is instantly accessible to here right through the browser or any mobile applications. If I open up my File Explorer, which I'm sure you're all relatively familiar with before, for my Apple users, we would call this a Finder. When I click into my company drives here, I can also see that there's a drive that matches the name of my actual SharePoint homepage. So if you look, these folders over here on the web interface are these exact folders over here in the traditional desktop interface. And whatever happens here also happens on this side in real time. And this is really powerful because no matter where you're working from or what style you prefer to work in, do you prefer to be more traditional inside File Explorer, or do you want to be ultra modern and work inside the browser from any device? Either way, it works for you. One of the big pieces here is data security too. So a lot of concerns that we've had, and I'm just going to go ahead and minimize all my other windows here. But one of the big concerns we've had with organizations is, hey, now that my employees are either working from home or a remote office or on the road, how do I make sure they're not taking my company data and moving it to unauthorized destinations? For example, a personal Google Drive or a personal OneDrive or another company's OneDrive, whatever that may be. So I want to call attention to this column here called File Ownership. And in our configuration, it will actually pick up on what is and is not a work-related document or an organization-related document. And to demonstrate what this behavior does, if I try and take this Word document in my company shared drive and move it to my personal OneDrive, I get the message here that says, sorry, can't do that. You're not authorized to place this file here. It's not allowed by your organization. Now, no matter what my role inside the company is, I could be a global administrator, I could be a SharePoint administrator, or I could own the business. Doesn't matter how many times I keep hitting try again, it's not going to let me perform that action. It makes me save work-related items inside my protected work document libraries so they never leave my organization. Same thing if I was to come here and drag it and try and move it to my Google Drive, which has nothing to do with Microsoft. Now, it looks like it worked, right? But then I go over here to my Google Drive, I can see that that document is trying to sync, and I'll make these icons larger here for you so you can see. This tried to sync up to my Google Drive, but then I get this error message here, and it knows that this is a work protected document and it's not authorized to be moved to a third-party storage area or a personal storage area. So if I see my Google Drive status here, can't sync one item, and it's just going to tell you that there's an upload error. So this is a great way to make sure data does not leave your organization or any protected devices. Any questions that we should stop and focus on, Rafe?
Yes, thank you, Dave. So we've had one question about if people can share their documents externally, if that is what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So when your documents are actually in SharePoint or OneDrive, which is the Microsoft 365 places to store items, you can share it multiple different ways. So you can either share at the file level. So if I was to come in and go inside of here, I could right click on a file and hit share. And this is going to present me with several options. By default, the people that I specify are going to be able to view. So this means any email that I put inside this box here, and I can add as many emails as I want, are going to be able to view this content. But if I click on this option up here, you'll see that there's a bunch of options available for me to choose how to share this document and its content. The first option up at the top would be anyone with the link. So this is how you would generate an anonymous link. Does not require anyone to authenticate or prove who they are. It's just sharing something anonymously, right? Now, normally we would block that as your IT administrator unless you specifically ask us to make that available to you and your users. And the beauty of SharePoint and 365 is that we can decide which users have the ability to do that. It does not have to be every single one of your team members. It's extremely granular or extremely simple, depending on how complex you want to get. So anyone with a link is an option, and we can implement that for you. The second option is going to be people inside my company. So this is to be used when you only want to share data internally and not have it go outside the organization. The third option is going to be people with existing access. So this is to be used when someone says, hey, I forgot where the link to that was. I know we worked on it last week. Can you send it to me again? You could say people with existing access, hit apply, either put their email in or just copy the link and paste it wherever you'd like. You can put it on Teams, you can put it on Slack, you can put it on wherever you want. Only the people that have access to the document are actually going to be able to use that link. So really powerful stuff that you have the option to customize here. Some other options that you have for customization is when you come in here, you could choose whether or not you want people to be able to co-author and edit the document with you, or just view the document and download their own copy to edit later. You might not even want them to download the copy though, and you just want them to be able to view it inside their browser. For that, you can actually put block download, so it only allows them to view, and maybe you're sending out a statement or a receipt or something like that that you don't want people to modify. This is where you could do that with. So all of that is baked directly inside of here. Rafe, any additional questions on sharing?
Yeah, so we've had another question regarding, so let's say you are sharing files, you're sharing it internally, externally. Are there any safeguards in place to make sure that they can roll documents back if someone were to make a change that they weren't supposed to? Or can they also get a document back if it was accidentally deleted?
Absolutely, great questions. Let's start with the versioning history. So what I'm talking about now is rolling documents back if somebody went in and overrode your changes. SharePoint is great at this. So what I can actually do is right click on my file or folder and click version history. Now, you might not see that many version histories here because this is just a demo site, but what this is going to do is keep a 90-day version history anytime somebody saves or makes a change to your document, and you'll see the entire list with the dates and timestamps. From here, you could open the documents and restore side by side. So it'll say, here's the one you have, here's the one in the version history. Do you want to keep both? Or do you want to overwrite and merge changes with the other document? So a 90-day version history is automatically kept, and that can be upped to almost a year if you want us to go in and configure that for you as well with no additional storage costs. So that's really excellent for an organization. Now, what Rafe was just asking too is what about when somebody deletes something? So let's take a look at that. And I'm going to do two different examples here. And for this, I'm just going to use my online interface. So I'm going to go into my general folder. And in my general folder, if I was to go here and delete this item, I would have up to 180 days to go into the recycle bin and restore that item. So if I was to actually go to the home page of my organization, I would be able to come down here and actually see that at the bottom of my site is a recycle bin. And from here, I could click on that recycle bin. And I would see that document, testing.doc. I could come here and simply hit restore. And I have 180 days to take that action. If you need further protection than that, not a problem. Wolfguard IT can configure that for you. And that's all about what having a managed service provider is being able to make sure that you're compliant, you're keeping that data, and it's available for you. But let's talk about scenarios when team members or guests or whomever you let into your environment should not be able to delete content. Maybe certain content you are required from compliance purposes, again, whether that's ITAR, GDPR, PCI, whatever the compliance may be. It seems that there's a new one every single day when we wake up in the morning. So how do we prevent people from deleting data in the first place? Well, I want to call attention to this column in my document library called retention labeling. And you can see most of my folders here don't have any retention labels applied, but some of them do. So I'm going to go into this one that says retention demo. And if I was to come in here and click on a document and try and delete it, it's simply going to give me an error message and say, sorry, there's a label applied to this item that prevents it from being edited or deleted. So what this is saying is that this particular label is you cannot delete an item if it's been modified within the last 7 years. And that's a common label that people request, whether you're in medical, legal, any type of business really that has compliance requirements has to keep that information. So only site administrators, basically Wolfguard IT or your IT department, whoever you dub responsible for your IT operations internally, would be able to lift these labels and make those changes. Users would not have that ability. So really great ways to protect those documents. There's also one more feature. We could take it even further. So let's go into something called the Vault here that's on our main landing page. The Vault is an example of another document library. And inside this document library, we do have a retention label applied for unlimited. So we're keeping these documents forever. Nobody can delete them. Another thing about the Vault is not only can they not delete them, but they can't make changes to them either. Nobody in the organization, unless you grant specific permissions to a specific user. Most of the time, we won't do that. So what do we use this label for? We use it for healthcare patient records, medical reports that come out from an appointment. Maybe they're required to keep those for a certain amount of time. And also nonprofits who have to keep meeting minutes all the time and have to report on those meeting minutes to keep their 501c3 status. So if you look here inside this document, if I try and go in and change it to editing, I just do not have that option. It will not let me do it. So this is a great label to use if you have any data that needs to be kept completely static. Awesome stuff. Rafe, any more questions?
One final question, and then we'll let you continue with the demo. And this question is, how can users actually sync the document library from the cloud to their device, as well as, can you talk a little bit about how that syncing works and if it always works?
Absolutely. So glad you asked. So syncing works a couple of ways. First, I want to call out that there are two places. Let me collapse this. There are two places in Microsoft 365 that users can save data. Those would be SharePoint, which are your network drives that we went over before. These are spaces that multiple people have access to inside your organization or outside if you want guests. The second place users can save is their own OneDrive. And in OneDrive, I want you to think of this like your traditional user profile, okay? So this is going to be your desktop, your documents, your pictures, all that good stuff that you're accustomed to seeing on a computer's C drive or hard drive. So when a user actually saves this document here and syncs, as soon as they sign into their device, any folders or files that they should have access to, based on what you've told us and how to set things up, will automatically sync for them. So these folders will automatically appear here if they've been granted access, just like your traditional network drives would on a local domain. So if I get access to the human resources department, then I would be automatically syncing this particular folder. Everyone in my company gets access to the landing, which has all of our documents, so I get all of the folders that are built into there as well. If there are other folders that you want people to sync, or maybe we didn't create an automatic syncing policy for whatever the reason may be, users can also come in and manually sync document libraries if it hasn't shown up on their device. Again, if it's been policy controlled, if the user has access to it, then it's going to sync automatically. But notice when I go in here to my team file library online, there's going to be a button right up at the top here that says sync. And if I were to click sync, it's going to let me sync it directly down to my computer right through the OneDrive and SharePoint client. Now, for any of you that have used OneDrive or SharePoint in the past, and I'm talking about 5, 6, maybe even 2 years ago, there were some bugs, there were some challenges, right? Which is true with any new cloud software. This has been completely fleshed out. Syncing works just about 100% of the time, even if you have the worst network quality out there. The reason being that this sync works so reliably is because Microsoft introduced a technology called Differential Sync. Unlike a lot of other providers out there, i.e. Dropbox or Google Drive, Differential Sync is unique to OneDrive in that it will only sync the parts of the document that have actually been modified or edited, not the entire document or file every single time. So really powerful stuff here going on inside of OneDrive for Business. Awesome. Did I answer that question, Rafe, or is there anything else I should hit on there?
Nope, you answered it perfectly. Thank you so much. And you are free to continue with the demo.
Awesome. So I mentioned earlier how OneDrive is going to be your user profile drive as well. So what does this mean for our users? It means that their desktop documents, pictures, favorites, all the stuff they keep on their work PC will actually be able to roam with them across any device they sign into. So if I pull up my desktop in here, my desktop is instantly backed up and accessible in OneDrive for me. That means that even if I'm away from my work computer, I can actually go right to my landing. Let's say I'm using, again, a friend's computer or someone else's computer in the office. I can click my files right on my landing site, and it's going to pull up my company OneDrive. So if I pull up here, I see the same folders that I had in my File Explorer. And if I click on Desktop, here's my desktop. And if I pull up my desktop here on my local computer, you could see that it has the exact same files. At the same time, if I were to go New, Microsoft Word document, and call this Demo Desktop Doc, that will actually sync up. I can already see that the new document's been created here, and the sync is completed. So if I refresh this page, here's my Demo Desktop Doc. And I can work on that instantaneously from my phone, from my tablet, from my computer. Everything stays in sync in real time. Now, something else I want to draw attention to is, what if I'm not going to have access to the internet? What if my internet is so poor that it's not really reliable and I need to be able to work on these files locally? I used to say, if we go on a plane, but because, of course, of the pandemic, we don't do much traveling today, so I'll try and paint another example. Let me go into the landing documents here. And let's say I know that I'm going to work on stuff inside of this test folder all the time. And I need to have it instantly accessible, local to my C drive, but also sunk to the cloud version so that my team members can also work with me. Very easy. And I'm going to call attention to the status column here. Notice how they're all white clouds right now with the blue outline. This means that I need to be connected to the internet to access content within this folder, right? So if I was to actually come in here and right click on a folder or a file, I could choose always keep on this device. Now that blue cloud just changed to a syncing icon. What that's doing is it's making this a local directory on my computer, so I can work on these items even if I'm offline. And when I come back online on my device, all the changes that I've made will automatically sync to the cloud copies. Now, if it's at a point where you've altered the local version so much that the system cannot reconcile it between the cloud and the local version, it will simply ask you, hey, let's compare both files. And do you want to keep this one, or do you want to keep both? So it gives you the option to make those decisions. So that's what happens when you sync a file down. You can see now that the status icons of the files inside this folder have changed to a solid green check. That means I can access them online or offline. It does not matter. Good stuff here. The other piece I want to call attention to is, let's talk about bringing users into your organization from outside. Maybe you want to bring somebody into your SharePoint site. They could be a partner, they could be a vendor, they could be a customer as well. Let's say we want them to be able to come into a specific area of our team files, not all of our files, of course, but we want them to be able to come in here and collaborate on documents with us. So from here, I could simply create a new document. And let's make this document just say, this is a test document. Okay, this is a test document. I'm going to change the name of the document to say test for share. And that's saved. Now I can simply close out. And I've got my test for share document here. So I could freely come in as an external user or an internal user and open up this document if I have rights to this location and start working on it, collaborating in it, and up to 100 people can be in this document at the same time, making changes to it, and you'll actually see their cursors moving across the screen. You can also have a conversation with them about it. The other benefit here, though, is we want people to come in and collaborate, but we don't want them to run away with copies of our data, right? So we don't want them downloading a copy of this document. Let's say it's something secure or something that we need to keep tabs on. We don't want them downloading it, changing it, and republishing it as their own content. So watch what happens if I try and download a copy of this document without just collaborating in it. It tells me clearly, hey, you can't download content from here. You can work on it online, but you can't download copies. So if you notice down here, something did download. And if I look at what that is, it's basically SharePoint giving me a Dear John letter saying, sorry, that's not allowed. Here's the message, here was the title, and here was the size of the document. So really great ways to protect your data. And these are all elements to compliance. Again, whether that's PCI, GDPR, ITAR, whatever those compliances may be, 365 has you covered here. Awesome. Any questions, Rafe?
No questions that have come through as of yet. If anybody has questions, please feel free to write them in the Q&A and we're happy to answer them.
Perfect. So I want to jump back to our landing site here. Again, this is our homepage. It's where we get to all of our stuff. It's where we have all of our apps and tools, and it's accessible from any device. Let's pretend for a minute in a scenario that we had one of our weekly meetings in the past. So let's look at our past meetings. And let's pretend that this meeting on Monday, September 7th, one of our team members missed it. And we're going to pretend for the sake of example here that the topic of the meeting was SharePoint. Okay. And your team member is going to come up to you after they missed the meeting and say, hey, can you fill me in on all that stuff that I missed? You're going to say to them, no, I absolutely cannot. However, if you open up your landing site and scroll down a bit, you'll see all of our past meetings are listed right on our site. So from here, the team member could simply click on the meeting that they missed, and they could rewatch the entire recording that was done inside of Microsoft Teams. Now, this is an hour-long meeting, right? It's not feasible to expect every single team member to sit here and rewatch an hour-long meeting just to get the content that they needed out of it. So we've planned for that. Instead of sitting here and watching this 1 hour-long meeting, they could just click the magnifying glass and type the word that they're most interested in. So I want to know about SharePoint, and hit enter. Anytime the word SharePoint was spoken during the meeting by any participant, it will give you that timestamp because all of your meetings are transcripted automatically when you record in Microsoft Teams. They also record in multiple languages too. So I can simply click on the timestamp that I'm most interested in, and it jumps me right to that point in the video. I don't have to remember where it was, how to get to it. It's all right here from me. Moving down the page, this is where you'd find your Wolfguard IT tech support information. So how do I send in a ticket? Who do I call? How do I get help? Or how do I start a remote share session? All of that is always right here at the bottom of your page, and you can get to it very easily. Moving further down, this is not normally something we would put on a landing page. We would probably put it on your technical site or your admin site, but I wanted to call out that it's available here. Part of this whole solution is managing all the devices inside your organization. Whether those are Windows devices, Apple devices, Android devices, does not matter what kind of devices they are. We want to make sure you have visibility into what's going on, no matter where they're located. So this is just an example report that admins inside a company, whether you're the IT provider, whether you're the IT admin, or just a business decision maker, can come in and see all the stuff available inside your organization for device reports. I can also see where I am in terms of compliance. So if I want to know who are my biggest offenders, what operating systems are not necessarily compliant in my organization, and what should I do to remediate those issues, I can go even further and see things like policy. And of course, Chris and his team are here to help you navigate these items, understand these reports, and even customize them if maybe you don't like the way this looks or the way this reports. That's the beauty of this system, is we can tailor it and tweak it to what you need inside your organization. But it's, again, all available right from this one SharePoint page.
And we do have a couple of questions here, Dave, if you have a second for them.
Sure.
All right, so earlier you talked about the single sign-on and using your Microsoft profile. Can you use the single sign-on part of the home site for third-party websites? For example, use it for websites used often, or is it only for the Microsoft apps?
No, great question. Microsoft Single Sign-On supports the standard, what's called SAML 2.0. SAML is a universal single sign-on standard. So any third-party application that supports SAML, which just about every single app out there does now, Microsoft Single Sign-On will work. And that's all controlled through your Microsoft 365's Azure Active Directory and facilitated by Wolfguard IT. So all of that stuff can be put in. You could be single signed on to LinkedIn, to QuickBooks, to Facebook, to any system that you might use, it's very rare that we run into an instance that does not work for. Usually they're older legacy applications that have no cloud connectivity at this point.
Perfect. We have one more question, and that is, can you please cover workflows in this webinar?
Absolutely. So there is some really awesome stuff with workflow, and that's called Power Automate. You'll see that right on your landing site here, one of the options is to automate your workflow. So let's talk about what Power Automate is for a moment. If any of you have ever used Zapier or IFTTT, if this then that, you're already familiar with the concept of Microsoft Power Automate. So what Microsoft Power Automate is it's essentially an if this then that statement creator for anything on the internet. That could be if somebody tweets hashtag my company name, add a row to an Excel spreadsheet and send a report to X and such group or person. If someone registers for an event on my website or fills out a sales request form, add that to Microsoft Teams, send this person a notification, and create a spreadsheet. So any type of things that you want to automate, you can do that right inside of here. Just to give you some examples, let's say, for example, somebody fills out a form you create inside Microsoft Forms. If any of you have used Google Forms before, you already are familiar with what Microsoft Forms is. You can create forms that end users can give responses to, and then it's up to you to decide what do you want to do with that data. So if I was to click Microsoft Forms, I would say when a new response is submitted, of course, it would ask me to sign in, and then it would ask me to pick the form that I'm working with that I would have already created. From here, I don't think I have any forms in this account. Oh, I do, untitled form. I can say, what do I want to do with that form data? Do I want to send an automation to Microsoft Teams? Do I want to post a message to a user? Maybe I want to write a Twitter review when somebody comes in. Do I want to post a tweet? Do I want to have this done automatically? Maybe I want to sync with my QuickBooks information when somebody comes in. Or I want to send to Salesforce right from that form. So all of that stuff is accessible right through Microsoft Power Automate. Now, building these out in terms of what you put in there, how they work, we'll do that with you on a one-on-one basis because everybody's workflows are different, right? But I've got some really complex workflows, and everything that we do in our business now is powered by Microsoft Power Automate, aka Flow. There really is no limits into what you can put in here for an if this then that statement. If you ever see this premium tag next to a trigger or an action, that just means you have to have a subscription to that service. So this is just telling me, hey, just before you start using this flow, make sure you're a paying Salesforce customer. That's all that's happening here. Another big one is how do I send registration information to Outlook, for example? So if somebody registers from my form, all of you guys that registered for this webinar, all of the communication that came out to you was actually done through Microsoft Power Automate and tracked on the back end for us, including the reminder that you got earlier today. So I can see inside of Outlook 365, I've got all types of actions that I can do based off my trigger. I could create meetings, get attachments, get contacts, create a resource room, set up a meeting, anything like that can be automatically done with Flow. So the best thing we do with Flow is just say, tell us your hopes and dreams, we'll build the automations with you and then teach you how to manage it. But all of it is available right here inside 365. Perfect. Rafe, anything else?
Those were all of the questions for now, so feel free to continue. Thank you.
Perfect, not a problem. So we talked about a lot of things that are built into here. I also want to dive into Teams a little bit. So let's dive into Microsoft Teams, and I'm just going to launch that here on the web for a moment. There are multiple ways to get into Microsoft Teams. The most direct way is just by opening the Teams desktop app on your device, which is presented right here. The other way is using Teams on the web, which you can use from any browser, which I'm demonstrating right here inside the browser. It looks and feels exactly like the Teams you use on the desktop. And then the third way is using the Teams mobile application on iOS or Android. It works perfectly on those devices for your meetings, for your chats, for your file sharing, whatever that may be. So right in here, we have our demo My365 landing team. And if you notice, the name of the team matches the name of the SharePoint site that I've been showing you this whole time. The two are directly connected. And just to show you how connected they are, if I open up my File Explorer and go into my demo My365 landing team, Notice how the names of my folders inside my shared drive match the names of my channels inside of Teams. So these topics, these subtopics underneath the team name are referred to as channels. And what channels are is basically document and resource sharing with conversation tied to it. So in here, I could say at Rafe, here is the document you needed. And I could come here and attach that document. I could browse a team that already exists. I can browse my OneDrive, or I could choose to upload from my computer. And right inside of here, I could say, okay, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this document, upload it in here. And now you can see I can't upload this because I didn't give permission for that to happen inside my organization. But if I was granted permission to do that, I would be able to actually sit here, share those documents, collaborate online in real time. So let's look at that behavior from the desktop version, because we want our internal users using the desktop version of the application. I could come in, I could click on, okay, let's go into my demo site here. Let's grab a document, hit open, and I can freely upload this document to this site because I've been granted permissions to do that. Now, again, we could make this as open or as restrictive as you need to meet whatever goals you're held accountable to inside your organization. And if I say at Rafe, here is the doc you needed, let me know what you think. Now, everyone on this team is going to see this message and be able to view this document, but only Rafe is going to get the notification. And that's the beauty of working inside of Microsoft Teams, is everyone's going to get visibility into what's going on, but you're only going to notify the people that matter most on that particular post. There's also a couple of other elements of Teams here. So let's shake this and bring the rest down. The first option is activity. So in activity, you're able to basically see there's Rafe just replied. This is where all the activity that happens that's relevant to you will aggregate. So if you've ever used an iPhone or an Android before, and you know the action of swiping down to expand your notifications, that's essentially what this is for Microsoft Teams. Chat is where you're going to have private one-on-one conversations with people inside or the outside organization. And this is where you can find that information built directly in here. So here I am having a private chat with Rafe. Only he and I can see this information. But if we decide, hey, we need to bring another team member into this chat, I can simply click on the plus. I can decide who's coming in. So let's bring in Michaela and hit add. And now I've got a conversation going with Michaela and Rafe, and I could message them both right inside this chat. And Rafe just told me, great job on the document, awesome. And of course, Teams and all these chat collaboration softwares are built with millennials in mind, right? So we've got things like GIFs, we've got things like emoticons, we've got things like stickers, we've got video sharing. All of that is available directly in here, including things like praise. So if I wanted to tell Rafe that he's done a great job, I could say he's a problem solver, thanks for helping me. And then I'm able to send praise to Rafe. Now, praise is really important here because these praise stats are also going to aggregate for me and let me know how much praise a team member has gotten. I can use those analytics during my human resources, employee reviews. I could use them during raise time, or really any data that I need. I can be looking at employee engagement. The next item here is, of course, the team section of Teams, which I already had showed you. You've got your team, your channels, and then in each channel are your tabs. Those tabs can be anything you want them to be. They can be your chat. They could be all the files that you've shared within that chat. And heck, they could even be your entire SharePoint landing site, so you never actually have to leave Teams. You could work directly out of SharePoint or any other apps you use built directly into Microsoft Teams. Another big piece is using items outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. So I could, for example, use Google here. Directly in Microsoft Teams, I could do a search. I could search for restaurants nearby. I get all of those things that are available for me. The next piece of Teams is your calendar. So this calendar is a direct reflection of your Outlook calendar. So this is your Microsoft 365 calendar. Whatever happens in Outlook is going to happen here at the exact same time. You can have an instant meeting with people. You can pre-schedule a meeting. And this could be with people outside or inside the organization, video or no video. It's up to you and them. And then the type of event that we're doing now a live event. These are extremely powerful. Live events can support up to 20,000 participants worldwide. All of your attendees or participants would be able to come in. They'd be able to use the Q&A, very much like Rafe is engaging with you right now on. And then the recording is automatically generated and shared with all of the attendees just after the meeting. The same link that your attendees use to join the meeting becomes the link to view the recording and share with other people post-event. There are several different types of roles that you can give people in an event. The default one is going to be attendee. That's you guys, right? You're our attendees. You're watching this from wherever you are right now. And then there are two administrative roles. Producers, which Rafe is playing the role of the producer today. He's moderating the time, moderating the attendee list, and he's moderating the Q&A and the recording. And then there's presenter. That's myself and that's Chris. We're in here, we're showing the demo, we're talking to you, we're engaging with you. That's what presenters do. You can bring in producers or presenters from any organization or any email account. They do not have to be Microsoft customers or Microsoft partners. So maybe you have a vendor that you want to come in and do a webinar with, and the vendor is going to give a 45-minute presentation or a 15-minute presentation, whatever it may be. You can invite someone as a presenter and bring them into this meeting. So really powerful stuff here. And of course, Wolfguard IT is here to help you set all of this stuff up and get the most out of all of these tools every step of the way. Another big thing before I end here and turn it back over to Chris is your files inside of Teams. So we talked about your files inside of SharePoint, which I showed you in this at the beginning of the call. We talked about your files inside of File Explorer or Apple Finder. This is the traditional way to do it. And you can also get to all of your files built directly into Microsoft Teams, whether that's in OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, or a SharePoint location. But let's say you're an organization that hasn't made the full plunge to Microsoft 365 yet, and maybe you still have some data in Dropbox or Box or ShareFile or Google Drive, wherever that may be. You're able to bring all those popular cloud storage solutions directly into Microsoft Teams, and your users can single sign in directly into those resources without needing additional accounts. So what I'm saying is, if you're not ready to take the full plunge and move everything over to Microsoft just yet, not a problem. Let's find a way to make it work for you with your existing solutions until you're ready to do a full migration. But I hope that was helpful for you guys. Chris, is there anything else you want to add? Or Rafe, are there any questions that you want to throw in?
Yeah, I can just add that I know we're going over a whole lot of information right now. So if any of this looks interesting or something that you'd like to go into deeper on, feel free to send me an email or give me a phone call, and we can set up a one-on-one meeting and kind of go into more details specifically for what you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So if any of you want to get more hands-on, more granular for your organization, definitely let us know. We'd love to do something where we can all speak. You guys can ask us questions. You can get your team members or your colleagues on the Teams call, and we can all collaborate here and really drill down into what's most important for you. All right, Rafe, is there
Perfect.
anything I should hit on?
I don't see any other questions, although we just got one comment. This was awesome. Thank you. So it looks like everybody really appreciates what you did today, Dave. Thank you so much for presenting. I was able to answer a lot of the questions here in the Q&A. So if David wasn't able to answer yours, please look in the published section and you should be able to view that. Otherwise, if there are any last minute questions that come in, please feel free to post them, publish them, and I will get on them right away.
And just to throw it out there, if you want to give us a call, it's just 406-414-0532.
I'll throw that right in the chat here. Let's see. Contact Chris to learn more. What was that number again, Chris?
Yep, 406-414-0532. And I'm at option 1 for sales.
All right, perfect. So you guys should see that right inside the Q&A chat here. And you'll get a follow-up email either this evening or tomorrow morning, just asking you to rate your experience on the webinar. How easy was it to join? How easy was it to get in? And what did you think of the content? Feel free to post your comments in there too. Those will go directly to Chris and his team. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for letting me present, Chris. If there's anything you want to take us home with, let us know. Otherwise, we're all golden here.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Thank you very much, David and Rafe, for going through this with us. And yeah, anyone feel free to give us a call if you have any specific questions.